Hey guys, and welcome! Today I want to show you a shooter game that was just released this week and is the third entry to a well-known World War I series, and that's Isonzo. At least that's how the new title is called. The former titles that you might know or have played already are called Verdun and Tannenberg and have been released in 2015 and 2018. These two games showcase the western and eastern front of the war, and Isonzo adds the Italian front now. Or to be more exact, the battles of the Isonzo that happened between 1915 and 1918 in the Julian Alps. I've been asked by the developers at M2H and Blackmill Games to take a look at the game, and that's what I did. So I had the chance to play it a bit earlier with other content creators and the media, but I also wanted to play it with a wider player base, so that's why I didn't publish my review at release. Because I always find that with the real players, a game can feel completely different than when it's played only with the developers and other content creators. But that's enough for the intro, let's take a look at the game now. At its core, Isonzo is a hardcore shooter, and I gotta admit that I'm usually not a big fan of this genre because I simply prefer games that are a bit easier to pick up and learn and where I have a sense of accomplishment within the first few matches and not only after hours and hours of playing. But Isonzo is different. It has a lot of mechanics other hardcore shooters come with as well, but at the same time it's kept simple and easy to learn, while it doesn't feel casual as well. So it's a bit like a mix between Hell Let Loose and Battlefield 1. Not as hardcore as Hell Let Loose, but also not as casual as Battlefield 1. I think it's best compared with Enlisted by the level of difficulty, only without the massive grind and with a lot more team play. In Isonzo, you either play as the Kingdom of Italy or the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the developers put a lot of focus on historically correct environments, weapons and uniforms. The 12 battles that really happened around the Isonzo River were split up into 6 maps that can be played in 3 different campaigns. The only available game mode is called Offensive and is a 48-player mode that can be compared to Breakthrough in Battlefield. So there's an attacking and a defending team, and you have several sectors across a map. Within a sector there are several objectives that need to be captured, or structures like artillery that need to be destroyed by planting a bomb if you are the attacker. Both sides can build additional outposts that work like spawn points for your team, and structures that help you to capture or hold the sector like mortars, mounted machine guns, barbed wire and so on. And by destroying structures that the enemy team has built, you can also gain additional points for your team. And even though there is only this one game mode available, it has a lot of variety with the different objectives and the structures around the main objective, so it's definitely not getting boring. Same for the player count. 48 players might not sound much, but it's just perfect for the relatively small size of the maps and makes the battles challenging but not too stressful or chaotic. The maps themselves are well designed, and there's everything from trench combat to close quarters and more open parts where snipers can play out their advantages. The atmosphere is great, and there are many little details you can find, new paths to go and ways to flank the enemy. Night maps or weather effects are not available in Isonzo, but during the time I played I never missed something like this. And like I already mentioned, the size of the maps is not too big, so it doesn't feel like a walking simulator to get from a spawn point to the objective. What the game also doesn't have are any kind of ground vehicles, so there are no tanks, armored cars or anything else you might have to face. There are aircrafts though, but they are not player controlled. They can only be called in by an officer for a bombing run, but you can't actively pilot them. So the game is completely focused on infantry combat, which is a nice change compared to other titles of the genre. In addition, the 6 available classes are also restricted in numbers, and there's only a limited number of soldiers with a specific class allowed on the map. The officer, who issues orders and can call in various kinds of support like airstrikes, is limited to 2 players per team. The rifleman, which is the most versatile class, is the only one who has infinite spots. Then there is the engineer, who can build various structures like machine guns or mortars on different parts of the map. The assault, who is the only one that can equip automatic weapons. The mountaineer, who is the reconnaissance class equipped with binoculars to spot enemies and structures. And the marksman, who is the only one able to play with scoped weapons. But for all of them, the slots are also limited. So there's a lot of structure on the battlefields of Isonzo and very clear roles and restrictions for all classes, which is also pretty typical for this kind of game. Same for the damage models of the weapons. Most of the times, one hit is one kill, and there are only a few situations where you only get wounded. This mostly happens on range or from automatic weapons and pistols, and then you will have to bandage yourself in order to stop the bleeding and to survive. To do this, all soldiers have an infinite amount of bandages equipped, and with them you can not only help yourself, but also bandage all of your teammates, so every class is basically a medic as well. Revives, on the other hand, are not available in Isonzo. When you die, you immediately return to the spawn screen. The weapons themselves are mostly rifles like the Carcano or Vetali Vitali, and only the Assault class has access to automatic weapons like I already mentioned. Right now, the number of available weapons is also pretty small, but the developers already said that there will be more weapons added in free DLCs in the future. When it comes to the progression system, Isonzo is also kept pretty simple, and you only have one weapon and gadget available for each class at the beginning, but you can unlock more of them simply by leveling up the respective class. Sometimes there are also small assignments, but these are easily completed while playing. In addition, all classes have a few perks that can be equipped and that differ for each class. For example, as an officer you can reduce the cooldown on your ability, or as a rifleman you can speed up the bandage time. Isonzo also has a customization system for your soldiers, but the uniforms you can equip and change are all kept historically correct. So it's not like every member of your team is looking completely different and you can't tell friend from foe anymore. But just in case you might be struggling with this sometimes, there are also blue dots above the heads of your teammates, so you can't be shooting at the wrong guys. Markers for objectives, outposts or structures are also in the game, so that's where Isonzo is a bit more casual than other hardcore shooters. But now I was talking a lot about what Isonzo is and what you can expect in the game, and the only thing still missing is my own impressions and what I liked or didn't like. So what I liked about the game is that it's super easy to pick up even if you are usually not playing hardcore shooters, that it has well-structured classes and a simple progression system, that it has an amazing atmosphere and in-game music, and that the cosmetics, weapons and locations are all as historically correct as possible. What also needs to be pointed out is that the game has a very fair price with $30. Plus it can be completely played offline or against AI in case you don't want to play against others or there's not so many players available in your region. But that also leads me to the things I didn't like or that might be a problem in the long run. Cause when looking at the number of players the first two titles of the series have by now, you will find that these are pretty low. And even though Isonzo is at about 3,000 average players on PC at the moment, it will surely decrease over time. So that might be a problem at some point. But then again, right now there are enough players and there is a community of players for the old games as well, even though it is a small community. What was also a bit annoying sometimes is that some of the mechanics are a bit too complicated and you have to press too many buttons, especially for building simple things like an ammo box. And then there's the massive screen shake from explosions. This is still okay as long as the explosions or things like airstrikes don't happen too often, but if you are in a match where your team and the enemy team keeps calling in all kinds of reinforcements, this can get a bit annoying. And it even caused me to leave a few matches already, cause it was just getting too much. And what I also missed a bit, especially since all other hardcore shooters have this feature, is manual leaning. Cause there's no peeking or leaning at all in Isonzo. This makes the game a lot easier in some situations, but especially in my first few matches I always wanted to peek around a corner or a wall and couldn't. Nothing really bad here, but just something I miss a little bit. But overall Isonzo is a great game. Not too hardcore, not too casual, just a very good mix of both, and definitely a game I can recommend to play if you would like a more challenging version of Battlefield 1, a bit more casual version of Hell Let Loose, or a World War I version of Enlisted, cause that's kinda what it reminds me of. The game is available on PC, Xbox and PlayStation and doesn't have crossplay with PC, only between consoles, which might be an extra plus for all console players. And that's it for now. The review got a bit longer than expected, but I hope it helps you to find out if Isonzo is a game for you or not, and if it does, be sure to drop a like or a comment below and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.